We'll be looking into how to store key value pairs in Android using React Native's new architecture without any third-party lib, and we will be using preferences data store. Shared preferences is deprecated, and Google recommends us to use preferences data store, so we will be looking into that. So I have created a basic, of course we will be using turbo modules for this. So I have created a basic React Native project. So first we will go through the documentation, and this would be for Android. So first we will go into the documentation and go to the Android section, and first you have to search for new arc enabled. So I will go and search for new arc enabled. So it will redirect you to the gradle.properties and make sure the new arc enabled is true. So once you make this new arc enabled equal to true and try running yarn Android, it will once you enable new arc enabled equal to true and run yarn Android, in the metro bundler you should see fabric colon true, which means that the new architecture has been enabled for React Native. Next, what you have to do is that you have to create an RTN MyAsync storage folder. So we will go through the documentation one by one. So it tells us that you have to create a folder, but in the documentation it specifies that create this folder outside your app, but according to me that is incorrect. So I have created it inside our app. So they have given an example of calculator, but in our case it is RTN MyAsync storage. You can give a name whatever you want, but make sure you are consistent with the other file as well. So I have created RTN MyAsync storage, and inside that I have created an Android folder and a JS folder. So we can ignore iOS and generated for now. That would be part of the another video. So inside the JavaScript specification, we have to create this file in JS folder and write an interface for it. So I go to your JS folder, and I have created this file native MyAsync storage. Again, the naming is important. It should be whatever the folder name is, and I have copied everything from the documentation. The only thing which has been changed is this file name, as well as inside I have created separate methods for Android and iOS. The reason is that for iOS we use NS user defaults, which are synchronous, whereas for Android we are using preferences data store, which are asynchronous. That's why we have to use promises, and that's the reason I have created separate method for iOS and Android. But for Android you just have to copy these two methods. So basically we are taking a key and a value while saving data, and for getting data we just require the key and it will get back the data for you. Once that is done, you have to create a package.json file. So create a package.json file inside your folder, and I have copy pasted everything from the documentation over here. The only thing that has been changed is this RTN MyAsync storage, this file name, this thing has been changed, and this thing has been changed. Okay, if you want you can change it over here as well, but these are like GitHub URLs link though, so we can ignore it for now. But apart from that, make sure your file naming is correct, otherwise you will face a lot of issues. Once you have copied the package.json file, so we can ignore the iOS for now. So inside Android you have to create, also make sure the package.json is not part of your JS folder. It should be a sibling to your JS folder. Now inside the Android folder, create a build.gradle, and we have to create this as well, src main java com. Instead of RTN calculator it would be RTN MyAsync storage. So first go to Android, then go to first create this build.gradle. Don't worry about this .gradle file, it is generated automatically. Next we will create an src folder, main java com RTN MyAsync storage. Now inside build.gradle I have copied everything from the documentation. The only thing which I have changed is so I want to use Kotlin instead of Java, so I have applied this apply plugin Kotlin Android. Next thing, the package name should be changed. This should be RTN MyAsync storage, and Jetpack data store is the library for storing key value pairs on Android. So you have to import Jetpack data store. And Android lifecycle, this is used for handling coroutines. So yeah, lifecycle coroutines, for this we require Android lifecycle, and you also have to add this Kotlin standard lib library as well to your build.gradle. Next, what you have to do, go to the main Android folder, not in this Android folder but the main projects Android folder. Go over there, click on Android, go to build.gradle, then add this Kotlin version. So I didn't want to take a risk, that's why I have added Kotlin to the entire Android project. So I have added this Kotlin version. Next I have to add a class path, so I have added this class path as well. Next you have to go to app, build.gradle. Here you have to apply plugin Kotlin Android, and the next thing is you have to add this Kotlin standard lib. So you don't need to add this. I added it by mistake, like this was part of the debugging process, so you don't have to add this, but make sure you add this in the build.gradle of your Android's RTN massing storage, and you have to add this line. Okay, so make sure you add this over here. Next what you have to do is, okay, they ask you to create an package class. So I have created this my async storage package.kt, and for now this would be null and this would be also null. So instead of this thing you can return null, and instead of this thing you can return null as well. Next we will do code gen. So for that, so we can ignore iOS for now. So for Android, what you have to do is this, first run this thing. So instead of this, so we don't have to use double dot slash. They are using double dot because their RTN calculator is outside the project, but our folder is inside the project. That's why we have to use only single dot. I will tell you what exact command you have to run. So you have to run this command, yarn add dot slash rtn my async storage. Okay, next what you have to do is open this Android folder, this the main Android folder of your project inside Android Studio. Let it build it for some time. The Gradle sync and building indexes might take around 15 to 20 minutes. Once that is done, you have to open the terminal of your Android Studio and run this command. So once you run this command, this code gen would be created for you. So to check that, you have to go to the node modules. You can go to rtn massing storage Android, and you should see the build folder where the generated code is. Next we have to create the module file as well. So what we have to do is we have to create this my async storage module.kt, and before that go to my async storage package.kt and make sure you write this code as well. Previously we have returning null, but now we have to return the exact, we should be referencing my async storage module inside this file. So here you can see I'm just returning the my async storage module. Okay, next inside my async storage module.kt you can write this all imports, and what you have to do is that we have to create a class my async storage module, and I'm importing it from native my async storage spec. So for as soon as you implement, it's not importing, we are implementing this native my async storage spec. So it will ask you to override some of the methods. So we have to override get name method and return the name, and then we have to create a companion object and const val name equal to rtn my async storage. Make sure this name is same as that of your folder name, otherwise you will get error. Then it will ask you to override these all methods as well. So first what I have done is that I have created a data store context, and I have named it as user. You can name it whatever you want. Then I have created a life cycle which is required when we are trying to store or get data from preferences data store. So for save to iOS and get from iOS, these are very specific to iOS, and we don't care how they are implemented in Android. And if any user on Android try to implement this thing, they might get an error. So I have not done anything for now on these methods. Save to Android, it launches a coroutine scope, and it calls the save data method where we are passing the key as well as the text. And in get from Android, again we are launching a coroutine scope. We are calling the get data method with the key passed, and if there is some data, we are sending it back to React Native. If not, we are we are rejecting it as an error. Now if you go to save data, now this thing I have just copy pasted from the Android documentation for data store preferences. So this is the basic code whenever you want to save data to in your preferences data store with a key value pair. And this is the code which you have again copied from the documentation, where you have the key, and you can get the data based on the key. Okay, next thing what it tells us to do is that once this is done, you have to run this command again. Okay, so go to your terminal and run this command again. Next, for Android, okay, we have already enabled the new arc, and now to use it, you have to go to your app.tsx. First import rtn myasync storage like this. Next, you have to create two buttons, save item and get item. So on press of save item, I am calling the save item method, and on press of get item, I am calling the get item method. So inside the save item, if you are on Android, we are calling the save to Android, passing the key and value. And if you forget item, if you are on Android, we are calling the get from Android, passing the key, and it will get you back the value. So yeah, I guess that's it for today's video. You will find the source code in description below. Thanks, bye.